the party abandoning its call for an Islamic state and Sharia law.
The Islamic Brotherhood should not keep fighting the government, but it should help build the country, and it should make itself electable to the people.
Now the prosperous Justice Party is a modern party, with hip-hop at the National Congress and 4 ministers in the government. Still, many Indonesians remain suspicious of their motives, as more areas of the country adopt Sharia-based laws.
Yes, the Islamists can bring in their own political agenda, but people can have their own say as well. They can challenge it, they can discuss it, as long as you have a free press and a fair check and balance system in the government. So you have the full assurance that the end result is not that scary.
It's one of the keys to the Indonesian success story. This ally of brotherhood in Egypt has joined the democratic process. As the largest Muslim country in the world, Indonesia is proud to be an example where Islam and democracy go hand in hand. But recent religious violence shows that even after escaping dictatorship, democracy will still stay a serious work in progress that needs decisive leadership. The recent murder of 3 members of Ahmadiyya shocked many Indonesians who felt their country was going back to the dark days of 1998. But despite these serious setbacks, Indonesia has changed for good, says the man who led the revolt against Suharto.
Yeah, of course there are still many homeworks which we have to overcome. But at least we enjoy freedom of the press, freedom of opinion, freedom of religion.
Indonesians are watching closely the developments in the Arab world. They know exactly how it felt to fight for that one thing they never had and will now never let go: freedom. Step Vasen, AlJazeera, Jakarta.
This is Al Jazeera. These are the stories making the headlines. First, let's show you live pictures coming into us from Libyan state television, where a large demonstration of pro-Gaddafi people is taking place, and it's been going on for some time now, and we're keeping an eye on it in case Muammar Gaddafi decides to address the crowds. One of the banners in the crowd there read, "We are with you in our millions, Colonel Gaddafi." Music being played there throughout, and it's quite a contrast to earlier. There were confrontations in Tripoli. Security forces fired tear gas on protesters who took to the streets after Friday prayers, and some of them had tried to shout, "Gaddafi is the enemy of God." So quite a contrast between those two scenes. Forces loyal to Libya's leader are trying to regain control of the closest opposition-held city to the capital. This footage was uploaded onto a social media website from Zawiya. One local doctor says at least 13 people were killed during a prolonged artillery barrage. And Libyan rebels are claiming to have taken control of the Mediterranean oil port of Ras Lanuf. It followed a battle to try to drive out pro-Gaddafi forces. There have been demonstrations elsewhere in the Arab world, including in Yemen. Protesters in the capital Sana'a called for the end of the veteran president's rule. And in northern Yemen, it's reported that at least 4 people have been killed during anti-government protests. Protests have also continued in Cairo's Tahrir Square. The new Prime Minister, Essam Sharaf, addressed the crowd and vowed to work hard to meet the protesters' demands. And people in Jordan have also taken to the streets. Crowds in the capital, Amman, have been demanding political reforms and the creation of a constitutional monarchy. Jordan's Prime Minister has rejected opposition calls to strip King Abdullah of his powers. In Pakistan, mourners gathered for the funeral of the former Minorities Minister, Shahbaz Bhatti. Security was tightened around Islamabad's main church, where a funeral service was held. Bhatti was shot dead on Wednesday. He'd been calling for reforms to Pakistan's controversial blasphemy law. Politicians in Taiwan say that they feel threatened by China's plan to boost defence spending by 13%. Beijing played down the island nation's concerns, but Taiwan is urging the United States and Europe to sell them more weapons to develop their own arsenal. 101 East is next.
has long been proud of its diverse ethnicity, cultures and spiritual beliefs. But recent attacks against minority groups like the Ahmadiyya sect and on Christian churches have many claiming that religious intolerance is on the rise here. I'm Fauzia Ibrahim. On this edition of 101 East, we ask just what does religious freedom mean in multicultural Indonesia?
Outnumbered, police stand by as a mob attacks homes in Banten, West Java, Indonesia. They belong to Ahmadiyya, a sect who say they are Muslims, but who believe their founder was the final prophet rather than Muhammad. It's a belief that's deeply offensive to the vast majority of Indonesia's 209 million Muslims. But this amateur video showing the crowd stripping 3 Ahmadiyya men naked, stoning and beating them to death has shocked the nation. It is too gruesome to show here. The number of attacks against religious minorities in Indonesia has surged in the last year. As a result, Ahmadiyya followers in Lombok are to be forcibly moved to this almost deserted island nearby, a move the provincial government say is for their own safety. For Kai Rudin, it's the first time he's seen his potential new home.
Menurut saya terutama bagus lah.
I think the island looks comfortable.
Bagus, nyaman juga udara.
The air is fresh and I don't mind living here as long as facilities such as electricity and school is provided and safety as well. I'm excited.
Every moment is recorded for 200 SEC members back home. The island's sole resident, whose job is to guard the palm trees, tells them on camera he's not happy with Ahmadiyya moving here. But these men have no home. In 2006, they were forced to abandon this village in Lombok when a neighbouring community forced them out. When some Ahmadiyya members tried to return late last year, their houses were looted. The movement's regional head says such incidents are rarely investigated.
Authorities haven't arrested any perpetrators of the attacks, and they don't actively try to solve the case. We had to report to the police station directly to get them to pursue the case. This shows authorities' lack of support and commitment to enforce the law.
Mungkinkah kau masih mengharapkanku?
22 Ahmadiyya families now live in this shelter in Lombok's capital, Mataram. Young and